Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday program. Thank you for coming and taking shelter at the lotus feet of Shri Radha. So today I wanted to speak about something in particular, something that I have seen again and again that is a problem for everyone. And so I'm going to read from Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, text number 23. And then I have one little announcement at the end of the program. Shaknoti haidayat shodham praksharira vimukshanat kamakrodhodbhavam vegam sayukta sa sukhi nara. Translation and purport by the Divine Srila Prabhupada. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and happy in this world. Everyone can please repeat. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Purport. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or Swami. Such Goswamis live strictly controlled lives and forego altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Sharakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopushtam Shtapitam Yena Bhuttade Swayam Rupakata Mayam Tadaptisarantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhuttade Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Srinamane Amrite Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasad Vishesha Shunyavadi Vastacharisharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Madhuri Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are two things that Krishna speaks about throughout Bhagavad Gita, probably more than any other thing, is the danger of lust and anger. And I specifically wanted to focus on anger. Because lust, desire is, as Krishna says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Mayasakta manama parta yogam yunjam manashraya, that we must be attracted to something. So desire is a very natural and a very necessary thing. But desire has to be purified. Nirbandha, Krishna Sambandhe. Rupa Swami says that Nirbandha, to disassociate ourselves from those things that are injurious, those things that are that can cause us difficulties and can cause us ultimately attachment to this material world, can be given up by Krishna Sambandhe. Otherwise, the solution to lust or to desire is to have more desire. Just like in the Bhagavatam, I can't remember the verse, but it says that if you take something that causes a sickness, but then you take that same thing transformed, therapeutically, it would cure that same disease. And Srila Prabhupada used the example of milk. If you drink too much milk, devotees have a tendency to drink too much milk because they like to please the senses by an authorized manner, which is called Prasad. And among all prasadams, things made of milk are very wonderful. And so if you take too much milk or too much ghee, then by taking curd, Prabhupada says, otherwise, not curd like we know it, but it's a special kind of curd, a little bit sour. It can cure that same disease. So, the cure for desire is more desire, but desire directed to Krishna. Desire transformed into the desire to please Krishna. Just like, well, anyway, I want to give an example a little bit. And inevitably, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, starting in the 2nd chapter, where Krishna warns us, that one should be very careful in meditating on the objects of the senses. Because teshu, that sangha teshu bhajayate. Because inevitably, whatever you meditate on, you will develop a great attachment for that. And the same goes for Krishna. This formula is a universal formula. So if we meditate on anything, I've often given the example, just like a man may be walking along and all of a sudden he sees a beautiful woman. And because of that attraction, he starts meditating. He doesn't just think, here's another person, or in the words of Shankaracharya, it's just blood and muscle and all kinds of different things combined together. No, most of us don't think that way. We're not that philosophical. We just see something that attracts us. Or you go to the mall, Chivwana's mall or whatever mall, and you see so many things and you become attracted. But if you don't go, you will never think of those things. If you don't see that attractive person, there's no relationship. So if we don't contemplate the object of the sense, but how will we not contemplate them? Because they are all around us. And therefore, Rupa Goswami says, you have to contemplate Krishna. Because if you meditate on Krishna, then you will have attraction. So one may think, or one may contemplate, and say, I've seen Krishna so many times here in this deity form, so many paintings. I think about Krishna, I meditate upon Krishna in the form of His holy name. But Where's my great attachment? Because Krishna said, if you meditate, you'll get attachment. So that indicates that we're not meditating on Krishna enough. Now one would say, why is it that I can see something in the mall just by slight meditation, all of a sudden, I really want it. But I see Krishna so many times, and I'd like to be Krishna conscious, but it seems like a more difficult thing to, some little object, like I see these people sometimes with little stands in marketplaces. I was seeing it the other day in Radha, and you see these totally useless things. Think about it. As I said many times also, that sometimes, especially when it's very cold or something in the U.S., I go to the mall to walk in the morning, because they open up the mall before shops open up. You can walk, and you won't freeze outside. And I see like 90% of everything that's in there is not necessary. You don't need it. Nobody needs it. And about 75% of everything is directed to women, children, and adolescents. So the point is that such a little, sometimes useless thing made in China that costs 10 TT, we can be attracted to it. And here's Krishna, the most beautiful person in his deity form, and we see him on the pages of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, different drawings and renditions of the Lord. And the attraction seems the deep attraction. Talking about a deep attraction. Well, then we can go back to the objects of the senses. Is it a deep attraction? Of course, Aho Griha Kshetu Sutapta Ditaya. It's said in the Bhagavatam that the attraction becomes deeper and deeper once there's the combination of man and woman. Then Aho Griha, then there must be home. Then there must be Kshetra, there must be a field of activity. Sutta Apta, children, and you get all children and you get new parents. You get a new set of parents, and generally they don't like you. And they think you're not good enough for my son, you're not good enough for my daughter. But sometimes they get over it, sometimes they don't. And then Vitaya, we need money to maintain all this. But is the attachment for any one of these things so great? Because generally that attachment is related to what we're speaking about here in this verse. That the uncontrolled senses. And if we have controlled senses, the attachment for Krishna becomes so strong. As Rupa Goswami says, No jane janita kiyad vir amritai Krishna varna dvai, that I don't know how much nectar there is in these two syllables, Krishna. But so much so that when the name of Krishna dances on my tongue, this is said by Krishna, by Rupa Goswami, and of course it's also said by Mother Devahuti, that Yash Jiva Bre Vartate Namatubhya, that when the holy name dances on our tongue, then we become completely, we surpass all of the Vedic processes. Now, how many Vedic processes are there? But if we have Krishna dancing on our tongue, we can surpass all these things. And Rupa Goswami says, when the holy name dances on my tongue, so this dancing on the tongue is something very interesting. What does it mean? It means that when we chant the holy name in full consciousness, then there's a very special effect. Because the attachment for Krishna, first of all, Krishna is when we're attracted to matter, Krishna is intangible. He's not, of course you can, very attracted to service, you can touch the body of the Lord in the form of the deity, or at home in the form of your deity. But that doesn't always result in stronger and stronger and stronger attachment. So what is the secret? The secret is, or what is the meaning? Why is it so easy to become attracted to sense objects? But how long does it last? A child has so many toys and they leave them behind. Then we may have some attachment for something in this world. Even the strongest attachments for husband, wife, and children. And husband and wife nowadays is not even that strong in many cases. And children generally is still pretty strong. Who knows, as Kali Yuga progresses, maybe that laws. But nowadays also, sometimes, especially in more so-called developed countries, they see the children sometimes as a burden. We want to go do something. What are we going to do with these children? And what to speak of elderly parents? Big impediment into my pleasure, my sense gratification. So even these strong attachments, and they may last, even if, let's say, they last for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but ultimately they're given up. So why is the attachment to Krishna so much more difficult? Because it is eternal. It has to be totally consumed. Just like Krishna himself says in the 5th canto, he's being quoted, says that my devotees, I'm very attached to my devotees. Even if someone reaches to the perfection of liberation, of the process for liberation, they may get perfection in the material sense, but I will never give myself to them. Because once I give them bhakti, I have to be fully controlled by them. So attachment to Krishna is something very special because it's permanent. And it's not only permanent, but it's protected. Just like you buy something, sometimes it says guaranteed for 5 years, guaranteed for 10 years, or something guaranteed for 1 year usually, or 6 months. But the bhakti, when it's developed in the heart of the devotee, in the heart of a person, it's guaranteed forever. And that kind of a guarantee, then the job of Maya is to find out if you're really attached to Krishna. And that's why that attachment is sometimes a little difficult. Because Maya, she doesn't want, who is Maya? Maya is the last expansion of Radharani. So Radharani is very anxious for everyone to come back to Krishna. And even Maya is also, because she's attached, she's an expansion of Radharani. She wants us to come back to Krishna. But her job is to make sure that's what we really want. And therefore she will test us. Do you want this, this apparatus, or do you want Krishna? So what will be the determining factor? The determining factor Krishna speaks about in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that yo yam yam dhanum bhakta shradharya chitim ichiti tasya tasya chalam shradha. That I will give faith to those persons in that object. Of course, Krishna is speaking about the demigods. But the demigods represent energies, and those energies attract us. So these, Krishna says, I will give you faith. And later on, Krishna says, Matashmita jnanam apohanam cha. I will give you memory and knowledge. I'll give you the knowledge and the memory to dedicate yourself to what you want. So, and I will give you forgetfulness. What does that mean? I'll give you memory, I'll give you forgetfulness. I will help you, if you want me, I will help you remember me. And I will help you to forget everything else. And if you want something else, I will help you to forget me. I will empower you. This is Krishna's promise. Because Krishna said, he's basically saying in the 7th chapter, be careful. what is the actual object of your meditation. Because whatever you dedicate yourself to, I will give you faith in that particular thing. So, this is desire. But what is the result of desire again and again? No? Krishna says, Sangateshu Pajayate, no? That from this meditation on the object of the senses, we develop attachment. And Sangat Sanjayate Kama. And from attachment comes desire. And from desire, what comes? Kama Krodha. Krodha, anger. Anger is a very, Srila Prabhupada said that desire, material desire, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that material desire can somehow or another be, it can be hidden. You can desire something and maybe nobody will pick up on it. You can keep it within you. But when there's anger, and this is why anger is very dangerous, because when anger comes, you can't just hide it. It's not so easy to hide. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. And of course, in the most famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna speaks about desire and anger, is answering Arjuna's question. What is it that sometimes we know something we shouldn't do, but we do it anyway? And Krishna says, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajaguna, Samubhava. This is desire which is later transformed into wrath, anger. Where does it come from? Rajaguna. It comes from the mode of passion, the desire to enjoy this world, that which this verse is advising us not to do, to the contrary. And then, Mahashano Mahapapma. It is all devouring. Both of these things are all devouring. When Bhishmadev was speaking to Yudhishthira and Pandavas, he said that you can control unnecessary desires by not making so many plans. Just like we all have so many plans. Everybody has a plan. I want to do this, I need to do this. We make so many plans. So it's not that we don't make some plans, but our plan should be based on Krishna's indication. And then he says, anger can keep you controlled by forgiveness. If you forgive, then it's easy to give up anger. But if you can't forgive, it's very difficult to give it up. Very difficult. And he gives some other advice, but I'm just focusing on these two things. So, anger is a very, very dangerous thing. On the other hand, anger is one of the most beautiful ornaments in the spiritual world. Yashoda gets angry with Krishna. Nanda Maharaj sometimes gets angry with Krishna. Jagannath Mishra got so angry with Lord Chaitanya on two particular occasions. One time, when a Brahmin, a very elevated Brahmin, came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, he lives in the forest. He eats roots and fruits. That's all he ate. Of course, roots are very popular here in the islands, Trinidad. Everybody likes edibles and all these things. But, he said, but he wasn't thinking of himself. He was thinking, my deity, he's just getting roots and fruit. This is not really wrong. Please allow me to cook some rice for my deity. Jagannath Mishra said, oh, my dear Brahman, however we can serve you, come. And he cooked. And Lord Chaitanya, of course, he was a little Nimai. He came up and ate the rice. Then the Brahmin cooked again, and Nimai, Jagannath Mishra got angry the first time, but the second time he took a stick and he was going to beat Nimai. Well, this is Jagannath Mishra, the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the incarnation of Nanda Maharaj. And the Brahmin said, Mishra, you're a Brahmin. This is a young child. You can't blame him. If there's any young children, don't listen to this. Your parents may get angry with you. And then again, so that time, Jagannatha was like fuming. But then he took the Brahmin's advice. And he forgave Nima. But then he locked Nima. He was going to tie him up, but no. He decided, I'll just lock him in a room. No. And then, of course, he ate again. He came in and he ate again, and the Brahmin but nobody was awake. At this time, nobody was awake, even though the Brahmin yelled out in grief by the Lord's arrangement. By the Lord's arrangement, everybody was asleep. So then Nimai said, what is your problem? No. You keep calling me to come to eat, and I come, and then you get frustrated. No. Basically, that's what he said. This is more modern terminology, but basically that's what he was saying. And he walked over to the Brahmin, and he took the form, a very interesting form of Krishna with 8 arms. And then the Brahmin fainted, and then he woke up and he fainted again, then he woke up, and he said, my dear Lord, and Nimai in the form of Krishna said, you've been worshiping me life after lifetime, and we always have this kind of pastime. And he said, but then he became angry. He said, but don't reveal it to anyone, otherwise I will kill you. Just little advice. It seems like, well, that's unreasonable. But when the Lord becomes angry or the Lord becomes satisfied, it's always beneficial. But when we become angry, it's always unbeneficial. Except, as Sri Narottam Das Thakur, he explains all of these dangers, and one of them is anger. He says 2 things. Desire, even Prabhupada says this here in Bhagavad Gita, that desire, if you've transformed desire into service for the Lord, it becomes very wonderful. And if you transform wrath into, like Hanuman, he had to have anger. Arjuna had to have anger to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. You can't fight a battle as a Kshatriya without any anger. You have to have anger. But the anger is being used in the service of the Lord. So the anger of Hanuman, the anger of Arjuna, or Prabhupada said, as Narottam Das Thakur said, anger toward the enemies of the Lord, or the enemies of the devotee. If anybody becomes an enemy of a devotee, Narottam Das Thakur said, then you have every right to become angry. So, but if someone's my enemy, according to Srinivasacharya, the 6 Goswamis had no enemy. Even though someone may not have liked them, they had no enemy. Even Sanatana Goswami, when he was punished by the Nawa, put in jail, but the Nawa loved him. It's just that he couldn't tolerate the idea that anyone could act against him. Sanatana Goswami, when he was going to surrender to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stopped in one place to sleep, like a hotel, kind of a hotel thing. And then the owner of the hotel came to him late at night. He said, my dear sir, I was going to kill you, because you have some gold coins. But I can see that you're a very saintly person. And he was more or less saying, therefore, give me the coins and I won't kill you. And so Sanatana Goswami called his assistant, Isha, and he said, Isha, did you bring some gold coins with you? Well, I was just thinking of, we had some difficulties. No. Give it to him. You take 1 coin, you give the rest to him, and you go home. Because someone may see themselves as our enemy. But if we are actually Krishna conscious, as this same chapter advises us about 10 verses previous to this one, that a devotee should see that all these things are happening. People are acting because of the modes of material nature. If a devotee is very advanced, he sees the modes of nature manifesting. He doesn't see he sees the person as an instrument of the modes of nature and a product of their karma. So this is Bhagavad Gita. When one may think, well, wait a minute, so-and-so did this to me, and we were discussing this afternoon. That sometimes there's justification. You're not happy with someone. Well, it may not be so advanced. But then Bhagavad Gita is trying to help us understand the way to deal with these things. And if you want to stop anger, you can forgive. But if forgiving is a little difficult, because sometimes it's difficult to forgive someone who is acting, contrary. They're disturbing us, they're criticizing us, they're doing whatever they're doing. It may be difficult. So then, nip it in the bud, as the saying goes. Then try to control your senses. Try to control your mind. Will you lend me your watch? I'll just give you the watch. I don't have to keep checking. 3 minutes. Thank you. I will give it back. So nip it in the bud. Learn how to control your senses. Now, controlling your senses, as Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, for a Goswami or a Swami, that's their duty. They have to do that at all times. But a Grihastha, everyone has to do the same. It's just that a Grihastha controls his senses and his desires by giving charity. Actually, Srila Prabhupada says that the perfect dharma for a Grihastha is to give 50% of their income to Krishna. That's the perfection of Grihastha life. If you can give that, or more. He doesn't say less. Prabhupada always mentions this magic number which hurts. It's like nails hitting the head. Now, especially nowadays, because it's difficult for us to, consider that I have to give 50%. And for many people, it may seem impossible. But if one learns to control one's senses, then everything becomes easier. Even charity becomes easier. Everything becomes easier with controlled senses. And everyone is expected, just like Srila Prabhupada says in many places, Grihastha ashram. Grihastha means ashram. If there's no ashram, it's not Grihastha, it's Griha. Otherwise, the home has to be a place of worship. That has to be the first purpose and the main purpose. Then, of course, a Grihastha, they have a certain license. Prabhupada said little license, he didn't say big license. Little license. You have a little license to enjoy. If you want to be Krishna conscious. You have a little license to, you have a few things and this and that. But if you're in the Grihastha ashram, it can't be just some uncontrolled, unlicensed desires one after another. I want this, I want that, I want this and that. You can do that. And many people do that. And then they learn after some time that this is very costly. One of the things that Ishmadev said to the Pandavas, you can save money by controlling the senses. He said that, you can save money. Of course, Prabhupada is digging that out of the Mahabharata. That's not what he says in Bhagavatam. It's very short. It's instructing, but Prabhupada gives a whole list of things that he said from the Mahabharata. And that was one of them. If you want to save money, you control your senses. Because it's true, if we have controlled senses, and if we're very Krishna conscious and have controlled senses, then we want less things. And naturally speaking, if you're very attached to Krishna, then you think, let me buy something for my deity. And if you're not so Krishna conscious, you say, let me buy something for my wife or husband. Of course, Prabhupada also advised in the Bhagavatam that you should buy something for your wife. Not that you don't. But you should buy more for your deity. Of course, for some people, the wife is the deity. And many wives like to be the deity, But that's another subject matter. But, otherwise, the same tendency is there. But when Krishna becomes the object, Krishna should be the object of our worship. Krishna, we were just reading the other day at the South Temple, the one verse after these two famous verses, I can't remember the whole thing. I can't. Vasudeva Paramaka, Vasudeva Parayogi Yoga. Vasudeva is the object of everything we do, of yoga, of sacrifice, of knowledge, and the ultimate goal of life. So how do we develop this? Somebody may say, well, that's not me. I'm working, I have a family, I have all these things. But these things are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to bring us to that platform where we can really live like that. What we're doing here right now, we're discussing these things so that we can contemplate that. Just like I mentioned this morning in the Chaitanya Charitamrita class, that one may have quoted a very wonderful verse, 11, 20, 27, 28, two verses in the Bhagavatam. It says, even though you may not be able to give up certain material desires, at least you should understand that those material desires will be problematic. At least you should understand that. Because if you don't, then you won't understand why I'm having problems. It doesn't mean that you won't have problems, but at least if you understand it, that will be an impetus to give up the cause of the problem. But if you think the cause of the problem is so-and-so, and if I just get rid of so-and-so, I mean, not suggesting, murder or, if you just give up, if I just get away from so-and-so, or get rid of them from my life, then I'll be okay. No, that's not the solution. The solution is that we understand that the unnecessary desires in life will ultimately cause us problems. And giving those things up and their concomitant, their natural result, which is anger, which is so destructive. Krishna speaks about lust and anger, desire and anger, all through the Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada quotes it and again in his purports. These things are very dangerous. So anyway, this is what I wanted to speak about today. The solution is control your senses according to your ashram. And we were discussing this today, the importance of Varnashram Dharma. Srila Prabhupada, his statement, one of his last statements, that I've left 50% unfinished, which is establishing Varnashram. Prabhupada was ready to go to Gita Nagari. He was on his way, but his body wouldn't resist. To what? To go there to establish a model for Varnashram Dharma. Because this is actually the way, the system given by Krishna, that we can control our senses, control our mind, and control our lives, control our desires, so that we can be ultimately happy in Krishna consciousness, as it says in this verse. Check. Tolerate the urges of the material senses. That means tolerance. Check the forces of desire and anger. Otherwise, stop them. Keep them well under control. He is well situated and happy in this world. We all want to be happy. But if we want to be happy according to my formula, it won't be very long lasting. But if we want to be happy by Krishna's formula, then it will be very, very long lasting. I'm going to stop here. if there's anyone, I could take one question, but I do have a little announcement to make, and we're only like, I don't know, just watching. Right? But I see the curtain moving over there. So a quick question, or a quick comment.
So quick, it'll just be a comment, you don't have to.
Okay, I will answer.
Just that we may have the impression that Srila Prabhupada, due to circumstances, and that had something to do with that, he wanted to establish Varnashram, even for the devotees, for most of them. But actually, as you probably know, others may not, that it was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's instruction to his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that was one of the things he left him to do, is to establish Daivi Varnashram Dharma. So it goes back a little ways. And even the system of having the varnas and ashrams in the Gaudiya Math was indicative of that. He was following the instruction.
Yes, so for those that might not have heard, Maharaj is saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that he should establish Daivi Varnashram. And of course, Srila Prabhupada carried on that desire. And Varnashram is not only for the devotees, but, Varnashram is for the devotees and for the whole society. It's a big mission that Srila Prabhupada has entrusted. So, because of the time factor, I just want to make one announcement. And then you could just please wait 1 minute. That in these days I've been discussing with different persons and Mother Panchatattva and other devotees about the direction of the temple. And so we're going to make a transition in the leadership of the temple. That Gopinatha, Gopta Prabhu, and a team of devotees who we've been working on for some time will take charge of leading the temple. We're in transition right now. It's pending, but a few days or whatever, however long it takes to make that transition, very short time, then we'll have new leadership in the temple so that people understand. There's been a lot of different ideas floating around, but that is what we're doing. And but I also wanted to take this opportunity, especially to thank Mother Panchatattva for so many years of dedication to being president of this temple. It's not an easy thing to do. I remember many times people complain about temple presidents, and there always will be some complaints because we all make mistakes. And I always tell them, just do it for a month and you'll see what it's like. And so anyway, I just wanted to announce that to the devotees, and of course there'll be more announcements as things develop in the next few days or the next few weeks in this transition period. And of course I beg all the devotees, as usual, to cooperate, and of course to help this new team to become successful and reach, even more and more levels and avenues of success in our temple activities and Krishna consciousness here in ISKCON Mandir. So I'll end on that note, and here's the note from the Lord's devotee, announcing his presence. Thank you all very much. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Shri Prabhupada.